What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the debut album by singer and producer Pharrell Williams. Basically, this product is called In My Mind, and it came out in the summer of 2006. So the thing about this particular album is just the fact that this was kind of a big deal around the time when it was debuting back in like the mid 2000s. This was an album that was supposed to happen for a while because Pharrell started to be more heralded as like a hook singer, and he was a real nice snag as like a feature back in like the early and mid 2000s between songs with Jay-Z and Mystical and folks like that, and Nelly and some of those type of folks, and Snoop Dogg, some of those type of folks in particular. This is like a great wingman for Snoop Dogg and Jay-Z, especially with some of those type of hits like Beautiful and Change Clothes and some of those particular type ones. And Front was a real nice one, even though that was Pharrell's solo song. It was just kind of within the pitch. Pharrell kind of pseudo dropped like a debut album before this, which kind of had the hit single Front on there. It was like a 2003 album. It might have been a Neptune's album. I forget what that one's particularly called, but it's like a particular 2003 album. I might put that in the connotations as far as those pictures can happen, but it was an album that kind of came out. And then there were also some Nerd albums that came out, which is Pharrell's band as a group. I don't know if that has Chad Hugo a part of it. I don't know if the Nerd band has Chad Hugo a part of it, but Pharrell also had like a side project called Nerd, which had a series of albums that came out like across like the mid 2000s to like the early 2010s, some of that type of era. But this was really Pharrell's solo stuff that just consisted like the stuff that he did with songs like Beautiful and Drop It Like It's Hot and some of those type of ones, and like Frontin' and Change Clothes and some of those type of pitches. It's a very sing-songy type album and really hits heavily. Also has some pretty good snaps on here just in the pitch. Pharrell's a pretty good rapper, has some good pitches like that. Now, to my knowledge, I recently realized that Pharrell dropped an In My Mind mixtape, which is some good type fare, pretty good consistency within that. I question what some of those type hits are going to be. I'm definitely going to check that out down the road, but this is a classic album here, just would have to say within the appeal. Remember this album from back in the day, just very hitting. But the thing about it back in those days was just the fact that Pharrell as a feature, it felt like back in the days critics kind of preferred Pharrell as like a feature artist more so than him as like a solo artist, just because they kind of felt like his songs just didn't chart as heavily as like he did when he was with Jay-Z or Mystical or Nelly or Snoop Dogg, some of those type of folks. But I definitely feel like the appeal behind this product is pretty blistering. Just really nails it just in the aspect as far as that fair going to happen. It's just kind of the concept that, I mean, do I expect Pharrell to be a lyricist as potent as Lil Wayne or Jay-Z? Not really within the pitch. I mean, you have to understand that he actually does do, you have to understand that similar to like Dr. Dre, he puts out potent beats just like Dr. Dre does. Pharrell and Chad Hugo put out some pretty potent beats as the Neptunes as far as those pitches can happen. A lot of those beats in some cases run for like 250 large, just some pitches like that. So some of these paying $250,000 just for one production is a pretty good type fare to kind of get within the tone behind it. So a lot of these is some excellent type appeal just within the aspect behind it. Just some good type fare with it. But this is kind of the tone. Just being able to say that this album is pretty excellently type produced on top of that. Has some good type fare. Pharrell's pretty good potent. Pharrell has some pretty good hooks and melodies. He works as like a pretty affable type singer. Skateboard P works as a pretty affable type singer on here, and there are some rap songs on top of that. So it's just good pitch, good amalgamation, pseudo R&B, pseudo hip hop, just within pitches like that. It's a very vanilla type rap album. Originally, I thought that this was more southern flavor, but this seems like a pretty much straightforward just rap album, like something you would expect from like The Game or Eminem or 50 Cent. Just kind of within the aspect that's kind of what Pharrell's kind of doing. I think he was large enough to where he's not as full bound underground, but he's just kind of, I don't want to say secondary in terms of quality, but just the aspect that he's just kind of like in kind of a secondary branch as far as saying, oh, do you know about Pharrell? And I mean, at least nowadays in these times, Pharrell is just not as commonly popped up within most of these times. For the most part, he does kind of affiliate with folks like Tyler the Creator and like Childish Gambino, some of those type of folks, but he's not as prominent as he was, especially back in 2003, 2006, 2010. It was just within the appeal that he always kind of was affiliated with some of the bigger names. It was a good look to kind of have like Neptune's productions back in those days, just within the appeal. And it's just kind of a concept that it's vanilla, but it's just kind of in a sense of not primary vanilla, I'd have to say, within the aspect of it. Still has some good touch tones. So this album's going to get a classic score, just being able to say that. But yeah, there was a good promotional run about this. This album was supposed to come out in 2005. It had a number of delays just within the pitch behind it, but it was just kind of the aspect that it did eventually come out in the summer of 2006. But there were 4 singles out this product. So the first one was Can I Have It Like That, which has Gwen Stefani on the hook. Now, it's pretty good pitch just because Pharrell produced like Gwen Stefani's hit single that was pretty large back in the mid 2000s, Holla Back Girl. Definitely pretty affable type one there. But Can I Have It Like That? It's like a militant and kind of oozing extreme sports like club snaps kind of get here. Just some nice glamour, I would definitely say, and a good dance pounder. So this one just has a lot of good, just kind of band work type snap. Just feels like something that you would catch like a marching band kind of dancing off to as far as those pitches kind of have with it. Just good type of feel as far as those pitches kind of go. I do like some of these sports game and kind of football game type pizzazz type ones kind of get here. It just feels like big city lights, just bright lights, pitches like that as far as those pitches kind of having just real nice sociable type one. Just real great way to kick off. Just real pulse pounding type one. Just really gets the blood pumping as far as those pitches kind of having this real nice one to kind of have for like some good, just get to it and hop to it real good. Just this single did not chart as super heavily, but I want to say it was like a top 45, top 50 single, something like that. But it was a nice look to have Gwen Stefani in here, pitches like this overall pounding type one. Angel is a song that was only released in the UK, but still pretty nice one on here to kind of get just some good type of appeal. It's like a glitzy kind of disco R&B hop to kind of stay within that sense. Just a typical kind of Snoop Dogg beautiful song like appeal that this one particularly has. So what I mean by that is if you like the song Beautiful, if you like some of those type of ones, like other ones on there, like some of those type of team ups that Snoop Dogg really throws, some of those type of songs that Snoop Dogg typically throws Pharrell on just within those pitch, very similar to Beautiful. And there were like some other ones, typical ones that Snoop Dogg, Pharrell, and Charlie Wilson would kind of do. There was one off of like R&G, I forget what it's called, but I forget the name of that song. It was the single that came out after Drop It Like It's Hot. Yeah, I looked it up. That song was Let's Get Blown. That's a pretty good pitch. Just some of those type of appeals just kind of get within that appeal. Good song within that pitch. Just some of those type of songs kind of get within that appeal. It's like some summer saunter to kind of get here. I would definitely say in a lit song for Bay as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just a good concept. Just a good song when you think of. Definitely a good ringtone type song kind of have for a Bella in mind as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just a signature song to say when you think of this particular person, you think of that particular song. Just some good type fare for that. Just in the appeal. Just real nice one. Really has the glamour about it. Just nice disco R&B here. This is one I didn't listen to as commonly as much back in the day, but it is a nice one within the appeal behind it. They're like a good assortment of this. The fourth single, That Girl, is a real heavy type one. I used to really play that one a lot back in the day, but there's just some nice ones on here. But this one, like I said, I don't think it charted in America. Angel just works as like some quality kind of disco flavored kind of 2000s R&B. So that's another good flavor about this particular product is it works halfway as like a rap album kind of within a hip hop type sense, but it also works as like a pretty glamorous type R&B album circa 2006 just within the appeal behind it. So just the concept, if realizing that Usher wasn't around in 2006 and T-Pain kind of took a year off in 2006, this is a good type concept kind of get some of that appeal if you like folks like Akon and T-Pain and Usher, some of those type folks. And this was kind of around the time that Neo was popping, some of those type folks. Just good stuff in particular. Number one with Kanye West is the third single. It's a nice one here. It's like a glitzy kind of promo night step out, I'd have to say here. Just some jazzy bright lights times to definitely have like a city hop type song. Definitely is like a social date night and jive kind of have here within the pitch behind it. So just some good glamour. It's kind of a good taste of what promo type songs we're kind of getting to way out in 2008, but just 2 years before that in 2006, I'd have to say just within the tone. Just some good step out, just good movie theater and just social pizzazz type stuff just within the pitch behind it. Just having like some good pizzazz and just like some step out just within a more kind of relative, not necessarily blue bud, but just a little bit more graceful, glamorous type sense, more tuxedos, more graceful type, just primped up type step out just in the pitch behind it. It's good type appeal. This was definitely Kanye West back in his gold digger days, some of those type pitches. So that's kind of 2000s prime era Kanye West, and Pharrell was pretty pizzazzful back in those days as well. He definitely was he knew how to dress to impress back in those days as well. It's a good type pitch for that. And then That Girl, this is not as commonly a talked about song, but this is definitely a popular song that definitely should have some appeal about it because this has some real good appeal behind it. This really has the pizzazz. It's like a groovy kind of beachside commerce kind of get here, just a typical kind of tropical frolic and drink it. I would say about this song in particular. It's good stuff for that. It's like some hot out fun, I would definitely have to say, and some catchy vibes. So just to say, the affability behind the song just kind of has the pitch behind it. The affability behind this particular song is just a real kind of just West Coast kind of feeling just in the pitch behind it. It feels more beachside, just pitches like that, some of that type fare, just California or even Florida type music, just within the pitch, some of that just summery type, just balmy kind of mojito type music pitches like that, just things like that, just tropical drinks, some of that type fare just in the pitch behind it. It's good type tone. Just really, I like the fact that Snoop Dogg was on this particular song. It's a good type vibe. Just has a good pitch behind it. I'm surprised that the song didn't chart heavier just in the pitch behind it. I kind of felt like Pharrell just did not get the affability as full bound. I mean, it was just interesting that none of these three singles that were in America really charted that heavily. I feel like it was kind of the same factor that seemed like the casual reception of this album was pretty similar to like what the critics thought as far as saying that they just felt like these songs didn't catch as much as the ones when he was on the hook as far as those fairs going to happen, which is kind of a disappointment just because a lot of these songs are pretty pounding just within the appeal. It's just a good type, secret type album here, and a lot of of senses that just had some good aspects about it. So it's just kind of a disappointment that I feel like this particular album kind of underperformed within the aspect. But yeah, this is definitely like a good, just Pink Skies. That Girl's definitely like a good Pink Skies, just kind of summer, late day kind of fair, just in the pitch behind it, mojito type music, and just like apple martini type music, just some of that type pitch, just within the tone, some good type fare. There's 15 songs in this album, and there's also a 16th song called Swagger International, which is on the Japanese edition only, Swagger International is on the Japanese edition only, so I didn't listen to that one as far as those pitches can happen, but I assume it's probably a pretty good song within those pitches. But out of the 15 songs that are on the standard edition, I wound up recommending 14. So the only song I don't recommend in any fashion is just Our Father, which, to talk about that one real quick, just the factoid behind that one is just the fact that this one kind of has some religious connotations about it, which is just a surprising type pitch just within the tone behind it. I mean, it has great melodies on here, real nice Apple kind of disco R&B type one. If you were to replace that concept with Our Father would just mean something just embellishing kind of a bell, I would definitely say this song probably would have hit a lot heavier. If you're just cherishing like some woman, it's a great aspect kind of have within that tone, but it's just within the tone. It has a concept of just religious kind of connotations about it, so it's just within the tone. But other than that, it's pretty, I like the melodies on here are pretty good. But yeah, there's actually 16 songs in the 15 song edition, because there's one song number 9, which is Young Girl / I Really Like You. The song Young Girl has Jay-Z on there, but the song I Really Like You is like a fusion on that particular song. So out of 16 songs on here, I wound up recommending 15, which the only song, like I was saying, is just that I don't recommend, is just Our Father. So to go in on some of these, there's some real nice ones on here, like Raspy Shit's a real quality one. He said that line on Drop It Like It's Hot, and it's a good kind of continuation of that song. It's like a feeling off the Fritz, kind of Eyes Low from Smokage, kind of residential job kind of get here. Just a snicker and kind of laugh it up type music kind of have within that tone. Just some Day After, it was kind of fun. So there's definitely some homies type music, some good type pitches for that. Just kind of freneticness just around the neighborhood, just good snack run type tones, pitches like that. Just watching Jackass, Pulp Fiction, some of those type fares, just would have to say. Good type pitches for that. Another nice one that's pretty similar to like the rap edition of Pharrell would be Show You How to Hustle. It's like a hypnotic kind of late day residential commerce kind of get here. Definitely some more good snack run and goodies type music, I would definitely say. Just some homies dapping, just some overall fun type job to kind of have within that tone. It's a good type of appeals for some smokage with your buddies, pitches like that, I'd have to say. How Does It Feel is another nice one. Now these are some more rap oriented ones I'm going for first. I will get to some of these R&B flavor type ones, but How Does It Feel is like a sports game night kind of pizzazz and outdoor social hop to kind of get within that pitch behind it. This feels a great song this particular song feels like a great song to get nachos and some smokage like that. I'd have to say just an overall blitz night to kind of have just some football game type music, just appreciating fun in the bleachers as far as those fairs going to have, and some of that type of appeal with it, just good type pizzazz. And the thing about it is, I also feel like Can I Have It Like That's kind of within that appeal as well. Like I said, this feels like a marching band type groove of a song, just some football game type music, just within the appeal behind it. Just some step out like Friday Night Lights, just pitches like that, just going to like a college football game, or just pitches some of that type fair, just within the tone behind it. Smoke in the neighborhood, just around that particular fair, just getting burritos, tacos, just getting like burritos, nachos, and popcorn pitches like that, I'd say within the tone behind it. Some nice ones on here, like Young Girl's a quality one. Now this is a vintage kind of Jay-Z and Pharrell team up. This is like a swirling and hitting kind of dance floor snap to kind of get here. Just some vintage kind of Hova and Pharrell combos kind of have within that pitch. Not quite as like instantaneous. It doesn't have like the instantaneous kind of radio snap of songs like Frontin' and Change Clothes, but it is a pretty appealing one. It's like a stock social snap kind of get here just within that pitch behind it. So it is a nice one, but I would say just for like the appeal behind it, you probably would have to separate this song, just because I feel like it is an 8-minute song. When you combine the two songs on this particular song, so I would just put the song on like a CD or a mixtape twice. Just one edition would have Young Girl on it, and the other one would have like I Really Like You. They're both good, but Jay-Z is only on the Young Girl song, so he's not on both these songs, but it's just within the pitch, I'd have to say. So to talk about the other song in that fusion song, I Really Like You, it's like a glistening kind of dance club and Friday night step out to kind of get here. This one's a little bit more jazzy. It's like, this has some consistent kind of disco flavor, I'd have to say about this one. It's pretty good pizzazz about that, and there's just plenty of songs like that on here, so it's a good type of appeal. This one's just a little bit more like star-studded, just within the pitch behind it, some real nice aspects. The nice flavor one on here would be Keep It Playa with Slim Thug. It's like a Liddy kind of feeling, torch kind of two-step bounce, kind of get within that tone behind it. Just good for some social smokage, I feel, just within that sense. Just some step out and like some weekend type of appeal pitches like that. Some good dance club noise. Just good song for looking fly, and it's like a good song for looking fly, and some good razzle dazzle kind of have within that aspect. Just kind of just the aspect of just looking primp, some pitches like that. Just some good pizzazz just within the aspect behind it. Just I'd say within the tone. Good type of appeals for it. It's really like the two-step flavor. Pharrell really has some swag rap. He's kind of one that maybe Pharrell is someone that wasn't necessarily from the South when it came to like doing that particular pizzazz of folks like Young Jock and T.I. and 2 Chainz, some of those type of people, but he did have a lot of charisma. He definitely had some swag rap type flavor that he could pull off that particular vibe. And songs like Keep It Playa, That Girl, Number One, Can I Have It Like That, Raspy Shit, some of these have ones, Show You How to Hustle, some of these have ones really had some good appeal. Even I Really Like You, some of these have ones. Just kind of the switch between like R&B disco type flavor and swag rap within the pitch just has like a good stylish type flavor about it. And Baby with Nelly is a nice one as well. It's like an out on the town kind of big city night. I would definitely feel like definitely some glamorous fun to kind of get here. It just reminds me of Nelly from his Suit days from 2004. Great song to rock the dance floor and pretty good heater to kind of get within that pitch. So this one goes a little bit more with young girls, some of those type ones. Just some dance floor steppers as far as those pitches can happen. Just kind of stunt night, just within pitches like that. Show off for a bell, just within the pitch behind it. Just it's kind of some good songs to lay some dance game flat and just have that weekend kind of. It's kind of some good songs to lay some game flat and have some good weekend game just within the pitch behind it. Just in like the appeal to just like some social step out for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It had to say within the pitch. So good type of appeals. Take It Off, Dim Lights is a nice one as well. It's like a smoother kind of glared black light and After Hours Retired to kind of get here. Just some nice slow dance type music and a good romance type song within the pitch behind it. There's some ones within that pitch. Stay With Me is also within that tone. Just some more kind of this more typical kind of slow jam type R&B. But I like the variation of just like T-Pain does some great slow jam type music. I feel like Pharrell's another type one that usually makes contemporary R&B, but just when he does slow jams, they actually have more appeal about it. I want to say there's not really any ballads on this album, but I do like Pharrell's slow jams on this particular album. Just has a certain kind of aspect, just the flavor, just being able to nail it within the correct tone. So he has a good tone for that. Stay With Me is a nice one within that same pitch, pretty similar to Take It Off, Dim Lights. It's like a further kind of stock, glamorous connect kind of get here. Once again, goes with Take It Off, I'd have to say. Just kind of more settle in for a night, kind of commute just in the pitch. It's like the concept of if you have Bellas in mind, just kind of neighborhood commute just with Bella nearby. This is just like a smoother kind of neighborhood commute, just going and picking up like a pizza, something like that, getting some pasta, some of that type fare, just getting like standard errand runs, groceries, goodies, some of that type fare, just within with Bay nearby, just in the pitch behind it. It's a more romantic kind of commerce just within the pitch. Not so much like going like in the aspect, but actually the concept of this. There's no real work to be done in terms of saying, well, I have to do this before Bella's going to show up. It's actually the commerce of this kind of being amongst that and just kind of there's just no real competing about the flavor of this particular music. It's just like the battle's already won just within the pitch, just kind of the commerce of just picking up simple supplies, just a little bit of commerce in the in-between, then just having like wine and dine type romance within the pitch. Just this typical kind of slow jam type R&B, just in a more commie type sense, good type tone for that. And then You Can Do It Too is a nice one. Now this has some good appeal about it. It's like a grand and plushy kind of hotel in-between, I'd have to say here. Just some good saunter about that. Just definitely some blue blood kind of commerce, I'd have to say. Something that feels like Jay-Z would kind of do, or Nelly within like his Suit album. Definitely some backpack type grind to kind of get within that pitch. This just feels like a more Kanye West type song within the pitch behind it, just within the aspect. Just kind of reminds me of like something a little bit more graceful, the sort of stuff that Rick Ross was kind of doing in like a debonair type sense and like deeper than rap, some of those type tones. Just pretty good for 2006 type fare within the aspect of just some of those type hotel type gracefulness. I mean, there were songs like this. These sorts of songs didn't super commonly pop up too oftenly, so it's a good type tone kind of get some of that fare. And then Best Friend is another quality one. It's like a jivey kind of dance pounder to kind of get here. It just goes great with Number One. I would definitely feel I can keep it play as some of those type of ones. It's like a mild disco song with some edges about it, I'd have to say. So it just kind of has a little bit of R&B, a little bit more hip-hop type flavor, just a good type jive one to get. This is where I talk about with more secondary kind of hip-hop vanilla-ness just about it, where it kind of feels like it's something vanilla enough, but just maybe not like a mainstay type one. This is just one where you might have to be like, oh, what is this? Maybe a friend just says, oh, this is the cat that does the hook for Jay-Z on Front or something like that, or does the hook for Jay-Z on Change Clothes. So some of that type pitch, just relative, just kind of, I mean, it's relatively immediate within the sense, just kind of the appeal. There's some secondary kind of vanilla hip-hop just in the tone, and some good type jive about it, just good dance type noise just in the pitch. Not quite as much as pounding as like songs like Young Girl and Baby and some of those type of ones, and more two-step. I'd say Best Friend is just more of like a foot tap type song, just within a relative social out of it, just similar to Keep It Play at Number One, some of those type ones just in the pitch. But yeah, that's the tone behind it. So yeah, this album gets a 10 out of 10 just within the aspect behind it. It's really like that. Just really like the overall hitting variety and flavor of this particular album. Just has some good aspects about it, full blown. Just what I have to say. So the social score, I'm probably going to give like a 9.75. I would give this album a 10 out of 10. Was just kind of the fact that the singles were kind of under hitting on here. I think even nowadays, this is not an album that's commonly as full bound, like, wow, this is like star studded. I think the aspect behind it I think kind of the aspect about it nowadays is it just doesn't get the commonplace kind of attention that it needs to. It's just the fact that Pharrell doesn't really do as much commonplace productions as much as he did in like the 2000s and the early 2010s. This is kind of the concept that I think nowadays fashions probably don't realize as big of a name. I mean, I realize that Pharrell has like some degree of affiliation with folks like some relative folks, but he kind of associates more with like the backpacker crowd nowadays. Childish Gambino isn't around that much, and Tyler the Creator's kind of here and there with how often he pops up. So apart from those folks, he hasn't really taken a terrible kind of affinity the way he would fuck with folks like Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Mystical, The Clips, Nelly, T.I., some of those type of folks in particular, Gwen Stefani, folks like that, just doesn't happen as full bound. Even Slim Thug is just kind of within the pitch. It's just to a lesser extent than it was 20 years ago. So it's just kind of the tone. Social Score takes a snag. I don't know why the 4 singles did not chart as heavily. I don't know why Angel was only released in the UK. It's just kind of within the pitch. A lot of these are pretty excellent type songs. Like I said, it's secondary, kind of vanilla. So it's vanilla in the sense that you probably should know who this is, but just kind of telling that these are ones that probably after you've listened to all the primary songs like In the Club by 50 Cent and songs like, Without Me by Eminem and Forgot About Dre and some of those type ones, and Area Codes by Ludacris, some of those type ones, just to be able to get to some of these type ones like a secondary type fashion, just kind of within the tone. A lot of big names on here, obviously Jay-Z, Pusha T, Nelly, Kanye West, Slim Thug, Snoop Dogg, Charlie Wilson, Gwen Stefani, folks like that. Just big names on here. Jamie Cullum, even though I don't know as full bound who that is, but just within the pitch behind it, real star studded. So it's just kind of the aspect, the glamour on here. I do like these kind of sports game night type songs. I do like some of this disco R&B type push, and just it's kind of the fashion of like the commerce, just with just the romantic flavored commerce in mind. Pitches like that, I had to say some good disco R&B, a lot of good dance steppers on here within those pitches, some good pizzazz to just step out, and just some good overall frolic just within the aspect of just dressing to impress. It's definitely a concept. If you've seen Pharrell on Instagram, you know he has. If you've seen Pharrell on Instagram, you know he dresses pretty good within the pitch. So it's definitely the aspect. A lot of this is just some fashionable nice. This is a relatively fashionable album in the same sense as like the Kanye West stuff from like the 2010s. I'd say so it's a good type of feel. But 9.75 social. In terms of the future, unfortunate thing is Pharrell really uncommonly drops albums. I'm glad to have found like the In My Mind mixtape. I'm definitely going to get to that one soon enough. But there also is Pharrell's Girl album from 2014, but that was the second album. It took him 8 years to follow up this particular album, and he hasn't followed it up since. So it's been another 8 years since 2014. Over 8 years, there isn't a third album coming out. He does have some nerd albums that I might get to within those pitches, just some stuff like that. And there is that 2003 album that had the front song on there. But for those particular pitches, just kind of the tones. I'm going to get some more Pharrell down the road, but this is a classic This is a classic album here, easy enough to appreciate, but it feels kind of secondary and like the commotion it made, but I still wouldn't overlook it.